Welcome to Monday Night Call. My name is Tova Privet. I'm an Emerald Ambassador, and I'm really excited to jump in and talk about faithful working versus fearful working tonight. So I just a little disclaimer. This is what I have been learning lately and what God has been laying on my heart. So of course we all have our own walk and our own beliefs. So by no means am I saying tonight is the only way you can think about things or feel about things, but this is what I've learned lately. So if you're a Brittany Howard fan, some of this is going to sound familiar with her Lead Her Ship podcast. That's where I really got the idea from a few weeks ago. And I read the book, Faith Driven Entrepreneur, I think is the name of it. And it just had so much good stuff. I felt like it was worth repeating. And then for those of you that don't listen to Brittany, you should definitely listen to the podcast. They're always short. It's like 20 minutes. They come out every Tuesday, and it's definitely worth your time. All right. They are the best. Hopefully we can share my little presentation and get going. All right. So guys, we know really, well, at least we should know, and this is what all the diamonds tell us, it's really in the becoming, who you're becoming in the journey, on the journey to where you want to go. We can get really focused on our exact goal and the rank we want to hit and the money we want to make and the impact we want to have. But what God cares about is what kind of person we are, how our trust in him is, how our faith in him is, and the character. And so, yes, he's our dad and he wants to meet all of our desires, assuming they're good ones. And he cares about our goals too, but he cares a lot more about what's good for us. So as we work through these comparisons tonight, it's not a criticism at all. And don't let your mind go there with feeling like, oh man, I do that. If you see yourself in any of the willful side or fearful side, then just be happy that now you're aware. And any of the stuff we talk about with fear or being willful, that's human. All right. The faithful worker, we're kind of going to divide everything into two categories tonight and see what it looks like. That's our goal. That's where we want to try to lean towards. And sometimes we're going to do a better job at that than others. And we all kind of struggle with some of these categories at different times in your business. Again, ask anyone that's done this a long time. I'm on year 5. And it's a different struggle every year. And, some things I get better at, and then some things rear their head again. And it's just like that. All right. So you might, if you're familiar with the thought model, the CTFAR, if you're not, don't worry about it. Ignore this slide. But I kind of use this as a skeleton. In contrast, the willful and fearful. So the title hopefully wasn't misleading, but I just love a good alliteration, period. So fearful versus faithful, I just couldn't resist it. However, when I looked at my own heart with when am I willful, let me just make sure my mic isn't acting crazy. When I'm more willful, okay, 1 second, guys, sorry. See, I told you it'll do it. All right, is that better? Can you guys give me a thumbs up? Is it back? No. Okay, any better? Okay, Jacqueline, I can see you. All right, and it does it again, just like wave. Okay, we were on the CTFAR. So this is just the skeleton I like to use when we're comparing and contrasting. Thank you, Sabrina. And you'll see it appear. I'm not going to go in the normal order of CTFAR, but that's okay. So willful versus faithful. And I think I said this, when I examine when I'm being willful versus faithful, it's usually coming from a spot of fear. So that's where I got the title, if you're curious. I'm acting out of scarcity and fear and going kind of my own way and not trusting God as much as I should with my business. And everything I'm talking about tonight is kind of focused on our business, obviously. But guys, this stuff is applicable anywhere in our life and it's going to help you in every section. So let's just start with some definitions. When we say willful, what does that mean? And again, the context for this is from the Faith Driven Entrepreneur. It's a short book, really good. The Audible version is good too. So how they define it is the goal and impact we want to accomplish in our way, on our time, and by our efforts. And so I was definitely convicted about that. Striving to perform and achieve to prove that I am worthy. And we're going to go into this deeper with what does this feel like? What does it look like? What are the thoughts behind it? And kind of what results are you going to get if you stick with that path? This is human. We naturally want what we think is best for us on our timeline and our way. And that's how we're made, but we have to recognize at some point that we've got to trust God, that things aren't going to always go exactly how we thought. And usually that's for the best. And when he's in control, it definitely is for the best. So to define faithful before we get into kind of the contrast. So being obedient to the work that God has called you to do, trusting his purpose and his plan while still showing up and doing our part. So the responsibility for that is to show up with excellence and to do what we know we should, do our part, and handing over the timeline and the results to him. And this is so easy to sit here and talk about, and it is so hard to do. So this whole thing, I'm preaching to the choir here. But honestly, I think a lot of times that's what he's waiting for, to give us the answers and give us what we would call the success and the movement forward. We just haven't loosened our hands on the reins and let him determine the timeline. And he's not going to insert himself and overtake and exert his will. He's going to wait for us to relinquish it, which is part of what makes him so awesome. And knowing that God is a multiplier. So I always like to say God math is not the same as our math. And for like logical green people like me, that doesn't make sense. But 1 + 1 is 2 for us, and it's not like that for God. So stuff doesn't have to necessarily make perfect sense for us to trust him, which is easier for some people than others. So let's get into the feelings versus thoughts. Feelings are always the easiest spot to start because it's what we're experiencing. We ask, like, how are you feeling when we check in with each other? So how does a willful worker feel? So this is where a lot of us are going to find ourselves at one point or another. So you're going to have anxious feelings, stressed out. All of this is on me. It's up to me. People are counting on me. That high pressure that you can just feel, the expectations you're putting on yourself. Discouraged. You have a feeling of desperation. I have to figure this out. I have to make this work. If you've ever felt like the accomplishment, the high, whatever you want to call it, the satisfaction from hitting a goal maybe wasn't as sweet as you thought it would be, or it didn't last quite as long as you wanted it to, where you peak and then come right back down and kind of a letdown. If you're feeling angry and frustrated when things aren't working out, or if you find yourself blaming the economy, this or that, corporate, this or that, my upline, my downline, something external. So hopefully you see a trend here, and this is easy to slip into. This is human to slip into. And so what should we be aiming for? Because we know if you're not aiming at something, like you gotta be aiming to go where you want to go. So that's what I'm hoping you leave here with today, knowing what our natural tendencies are and then what we want to aim for. There's a lot of info here, so if you want the slides, just send me a message after or take pictures as we go. So getting into the faithful feelings, these are what I want to feel. Like, who wouldn't want to feel these things? So a sense of calm, a sense of confidence, peace, the peace that passes all understanding, even during storms, even when people are quitting, even when you feel like you can't gain momentum, even when things aren't going your way, on your path, on your timeline, you can rest easy at night. Contentment. This is a big one we were talking about on our team call today with I feel like personally, scarcity is the opposite of contentment. So scarcity and fear, not enough, I can't get enough, things slipping through my fingers. That's the feelings of a willful worker. If you find yourself in that mindset, so it's not really labeling you, it's just a mindset you've fallen into. And then you want to transition over to the more faithful mindset of this. And if you are consistently, and we're going to talk about how, consistently handing your business and its future and all your life's future over to the Lord, he is going to impart these feelings on you. We can't achieve this confidence and calm and peace on our own. We can't, like, and ask anyone who's tried, and we get tired real fast. So what are the thoughts? That was feelings of the two sides. So let's get into thoughts, because thoughts cause feelings. But I like to start with the feelings because they're the most upfront in our mind. If you slow down and take time to, why am I anxious? What statement is making me feel anxious? What statement is making me feel stressed? So have you ever heard some of these in your own mind or from your team? Everyone is quitting. I have to figure it out. It's all up to me. I'm the only one working. I can't get anyone to do this with me. No one wants to do this with me. I can't get back into momentum. I need to find a new way, a new thing, a new whatever, whatever new book or new trainer is out there. Not that learning is bad, but you get what I'm saying, where your posture or motivation's coming from. Is God hearing me? What if I lose it all? That's fun. What if it all goes away? What if I lose everything that I've worked for? That is coming from a mindset and a heart that we have any control over any of it. And it's kind of a sense of, I don't know what the right word is. It's not entitled, but that you had anything to do with it in the beginning, in the first spot. So we are partnered with God, where if we show up in the right way, with the right heart, with the gifts he's imparted to us, we're going to get great results. And so we have to remember that sometimes when you start getting on a roll and getting really successful, it's super easy to slip into like, yeah, I have worked hard for this. So you got to keep yourself in check with that. God chose to give this blessing to me, and I'm going to steward it in the right way. So what are the thoughts of the goal, right? The faithful worker. So I want to kind of go back and forth. If you didn't, let me go back to this one. If you want to take a picture of this one, you can, or if you know kind of common thoughts that you slip into or your team slips into during negative times, this next slide, I've tried to kind of create new thoughts. What is the better thought? What is the more faithful thought to replace this with? So that's where this is. So everyone's quitting. The better thing to say in your mind is the right people are coming and leaving. So anyone who's left, they need to leave. God has decided they need to leave to make space for someone else, to create some sense of urgency in you that wouldn't otherwise be created. You just have to trust that, or you'll be really emotionally tied to if people stay or people leave. And to know the right people are crossing your path at the right time. I'm glad that, and these are thoughts, replacement thoughts, when you have those negative ones. I'm glad this isn't all up to me, and that God and I are partners. I'm trusting in God's timing for my business. I'm grateful I have a strong team with proven methods. And by team, I mean Pink Power right here. We have tested, tried, and true methods for well over a decade now. God always hears me, even when I don't feel like it. He wants what's good for me. He's on my side. He is for me, fighting with me. Like, man, that feels good, even just saying it out loud. God is teaching me through this journey. That's when I say to myself all the time, especially on the hard days. And I think about some days at the gym are really hard. Those are usually the days you make big progress, and you're sore from them. So if you start approaching what we would call negative or bad days more as a, like, this is a growth day, like I can feel it hurts, I'm sore mentally from what's going on, I'm learning things. So try to rephrase it that way. Now, I'm going to give you a few scriptures. I know I don't like to just read slides, but these I'm going to read to you. These are some of my favorites. And I can't tell you the strength that I've found in my whole life, but especially in my business, from leaning into God's promises. He can't lie, and the Bible is full of promises. And I am not like a huge Bible scholar, Bible studier, I'm just average person, but having these promises at hand and visible, reading them, writing them, it makes a difference. So you can snap a picture of this if you want, or I can send them to you later, whatever you want. Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, for I'm with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. And there's a few versions in here, by the way, if you have a certain version preference. What I love is these are replacement thoughts, guys. Like, we can phrase them a little different, but the slide I just did before, the right people are coming at the right time. I'm not alone. Find scriptures that back that up. And there's tons of us that know them and repeat them and memorize them, and we can help you if you can't find those. Romans 8:31, if God be for us, who can be against us? Like, literally, God's on your team, guys. He's in your, I don't want to say downline, but like, he is on your team. All right. Like, think of whoever you look up to the most at Plexus out of the whole company. If they were your level one, like, how calm would you feel? God's better than them. All right. Joshua 1:9, do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Wherever your points go, he is with you. Even on your days when you're consistent and you're inconsistent, he's with you. A few more. Deuteronomy 31:6, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified. I love that version. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. Sometimes when people are leaving and quitting, you can feel alone in your business. That is a lie from the enemy. You're not alone. You're not alone anywhere in your life. So don't let your thoughts, your human thoughts, tell you that. You got to take them captive. Romans 8:31. I think one of these references, I don't think this Roman one is right. It's a typo, but God is your refuge and strength and ever present in trouble. Therefore, do not fear. And then hopefully you snap these. I'll send the right reference later. And then last two, Jeremiah 29:11 is probably one of my favorite verses out of the whole Bible, but especially for my business. I have it taped right here in front of me. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Guys, like, that in and of itself, he is our loving dad, accepting dad. Not all of us had have or had earthly dads that fulfill that figure, but the perfect dad you could ever think of, and how we want to give our kids things, even when it's not what's best for them. We wish we could give them everything. He feels the same way for us. So you got to believe that. All right, so getting back in, that was a little tangent for thoughts. So let's get back into the CTFAR. We talked about feelings. We talked about thoughts for both sides. So let's get into some actions. How is this going to look in your business if you are in the willful mindset or the faithful mindset? So the first one I want you to notice, you might see on the next slide again too. So hard working. These can appear extremely, these two mindsets on the action section can appear very similar, especially when things are going your way, when things are successful. Both mindsets are really usually hardworking. Both are diligent. Both will have success and both will have failures. But when things are going well, you can slip into the willful mindset and not know it as clearly as as you're struggling. I think it's more obvious. So boundaries and priorities. If you're in a willful mindset, those boundaries might get fuzzy. You might not be prioritizing other things God has blessed you with and stewarded you with. Maybe a little less family time than you should. You feel this sense of urgency and pressure that you have to keep working your business and work your business more, because you don't want that feeling of thought of, I'm going to lose everything. And you're seeking that calm, but you're seeking it through the wrong avenue. So you're overworking. Where am I? Sorry, lost my spot. Neglecting other parts of your life, almost obsession. So if you feel like you can't turn it off, you're constantly talking about it. Like your spouse is like, I support you in your business, but like, enough. Can we talk about anything else? So there's healthy boundaries for work, and we are human beings, not human doing. And so you have to be able to turn it off. And if you find yourself not able to do that, you're probably slipping into this. Avoidance can be another one. Are you avoiding certain situations that you know might bring these things to light, or certain people, certain conversations? Are you avoiding your back office? Are you having thoughts and feelings when you log into your back office? And then you're getting in your own way. You're worried about who I am and what the results are saying about me. So again, another point we were talking about today, just for example, 500 points, just a random number. The first time you ever hit 500 points in your business, how exciting that is, and how happy you are, and celebration. And then say you go to Senior Ruby, you hit 750 points, things kind of get a little rocky in your business, and you go back to 500. How do you feel when you hit 500 that other time? You feel different, but that's a thought error, guys. 500 points is 500 points. And so we can choose how we want to feel about it and what that says about us. And it doesn't say anything about you at all. So if you are having strong feelings about kind of your worth and your success based on points, that's an area you need to dig into and work on and pray about. So actions of the faithful worker. Look, hardworking, diligent, successful. You're going to see some of the same things. They have clear boundaries. They know, and we're doing high performance habits in some of our book studies now. And the first one is clarity. They have clarity on what's important. Their business is very important, but so are other things in their life. And their day reflects that. If you were to just peek in and kind of watch their day, you would see that. They're doing their part. They're showing up and doing their part with what God has given them, this opportunity, but they're trusting Him for the results and the timing. So they're not constantly the cyclic thinking, ruminating on, is this going to work? What if it doesn't? What am I going to do next? They're not fixated on the process. They're showing up, doing their part, and then taking their hands off the steering wheel. They keep a Christian community around them and mentors around them to help. They know, like, hey, I'm a human. I can't keep all these boundaries straight on my own. I got to make sure I'm surrounding myself with good, high quality people that will help me navigate. They bravely reach out and follow up. They're not afraid. They don't take action out of fear or lack of action from fear. So you see them consistently. They accept feedback, not from a defensive posture, but from a learning posture. And they take time to slow down and reflect. One of the things you'll see in action in the willful side is nonstop, no breaks, frantic all the time. And there's a reason for that, because if you slow down and you get alone with your own thoughts, you may not necessarily like what you see and hear. So sometimes that's kind of a buffering, overworking can be a buffering thing. So if you're never slowing down, you need to do something about that. All right, so results. Of course, we're all going to have different results in our businesses at different times. And we've said through this whole talk that that's, in God's hands. But I do want you to know some results that tend to appear with people that stay in the willful spirit, posture, mindset, whatever you want to call it. Burnout will find you. Some quicker than others, but it will happen because we can't sustain that level of pressure and in essence putting it all on ourselves and working to hold it all together. It's not meant to be that way, and you will get tired and it won't be fun, guys. Like an unfun business, I would say, is a result. You can't keep the pace forever. You might have thoughts. You're talking to less business builders because you might have thoughts like, this feels so hard, no one is going to want to do this with me. If this business feels like that, it doesn't have to feel that way. We just need to work on your mindset and get you into the faithful side and faithful practices, and you'll have that joy again, and you'll have that peace again. Pride will sneak in a heartbeat here when you do succeed. What is your heart posture? And no one can answer that except you alone with yourself in the mirror. And it is much better to be honest with yourself and know, hey, those are human tendencies. maybe I am feeling a little prideful right now. Maybe I am a little happier that I'm succeeding and other people aren't than I should be right now. Just being honest with human thoughts. And I don't think we say this stuff out loud enough, that you can't fix it if you're not honest with yourself about it. All right. And know that that is a common pitfall. And then volatility. If you have a lot of volatility in your business, I think that's a sign and symptom of an issue that may or may not be the result of this. So results that you'll see, kind of manifestations you'll see in a faithful worker who has handed their business over to God totally. They're going to have a joyful heart no matter what's going on. They're happy for this business. They're happy for this opportunity, points up, points down, whatever. They know they're on a path to become the person they need to become. And the business is just parallel to that. They are peaceful. That doesn't mean they never worry and they're never concerned with things in their business and spend time strategizing, but that's very different than lamenting and fearing and feeling desperate. So you got to weigh those things out and name them appropriately. When they do find success, they give credit where it's due. They know that that's a blessing that they've received, and they're grateful for it when they have it, and they don't tie their identity to it. And I wanted to talk about identity and value, but we don't have enough time, so that'll be another call. And you'll see they're having real impact. So take a snapshot of this. This is for you to do on your own or in coaching calls or both. I think you really need to go through, and if you find yourself, I said the title of it I made, faithful versus fearful, because me personally, when I fall into the willful side, it's usually tied to some sort of fear, and that's usually tied to scarcity in my mind. And a lot of these all of these are belief questions right here. So if you're feeling fearful and scarce, it's usually a belief issue, and the only way to fix it is to get honest with these and talk to someone. You need a Christian mentor. You need a Christian woman in this business or a man to externally process these things with. And Pink Power team is full of great Christian women, wise women, who many of which I would seek counsel from. So we're very lucky that we have that. And then before we wrap up, you got to also ask yourself, are you using all the tools? Just like we talk about in our business with the 4 pillars and all the things we need you to do on your IPA sheet, you can't do half of them and then be like, why isn't this working? Like, I'm not growing, but I'm doing half the things. It's the same thing with your spiritual walk in your business, guys. You got to lean into God's promises. That's getting in his word, however you want to do that. So don't make an excuse like, I don't study the Bible. I don't like reading those versions. Get a devotional. I'll drop the link to this, but this is this tiny book. It's called Bible Promise Book. I don't know if you can see a Bible Promise Book. It's really old, but it's alphabetized by topic, like verses about fear, verses about joy, verses about worry. It's just God's promises in the Bible put into a little book. And that's so helpful depending on what I'm feeling that day to get into. So you have to find a way. If it's somebody reading the Bible to you, if it's you reading it, don't make excuses. Find a way that works for you. Just double checking my mic didn't go out again. Oh, my camera is off, Sabrina. Thank you. I wonder, has it been that way? I'll fix that in a second. All right. And then prayer. We said Christian mentor already. Your prayer life. Brittany talked about this a lot in her podcast about really getting into prayer. And a lot of these problems, if you find yourself in the willful side and not the faithful side, it's usually a lack of prayer. Again, don't let that intimidate you. Like, I don't know how to pray. I don't know what to say. I don't know how long to do all these things. Reach to someone who you look up to that you feel like has this figured out. And there's guys, you can get Stephen Furtick has prayers on YouTube where he'll pray with you and you just sit there and listen. So nowadays there's so many resources. There's really no excuses. All right. So to finish, I started with a good alliteration and I have to finish with a good alliteration. I love it. But what do I do? Like how I learned all these things, these thoughts, these feelings, these actions. So what do I actually do? When you find yourself maybe slipping into that side, these are the steps I recommend taking. And this is just maybe an easier way for you guys to remember. Number one is to pause, to slow your life down. Slow down. Make sure you're not buffering by just getting on social media excessively, watching TV excessively, overworking yourself. Slow down, reflect on what is your heart feeling, what are you thinking, where are you at? And that kind of goes with posture. Unless you pause, you're not going to be able to figure out where your real posture is at that moment. Get into prayer. I don't care if you pray for in bed in the morning, as soon as you wake up, just lay there for another 60 seconds. God doesn't have some expectation of like, you need to pray for this long, this many times a day, or it's not sufficient. It's not like that. All right. He just wants to know our heart that we're trying. Pen, externally process, write it down. Right. It's amazing. My son did this tonight. He was like working on his homework and started saying something out loud while he was writing that he couldn't find the answer. And as soon as he read it out loud, he found the answer. So saying things out loud to someone or writing things down engages a different part of your brain, and you're going to figure more stuff out. And phone a friend. I like that one. Don't withdraw. A lot of times the tendency in those willful categories is to withdraw. You don't feel like reaching out to people. You don't feel like engaging with people. You feel discouraged and frustrated and all those things. The times you ever feel like withdrawing are the times you need to lean in. So have your safe person, if it's an upline, sideline, whatever. Doesn't have to be someone in plexus, but it needs to be someone who's supportive of what you're trying to do in your life and has the same beliefs that you have. And then praise. Somebody said to me once, I can't remember exactly where, but if you've lost the joy, then you've lost the gratitude. So get back to, we have so much, just the fact that you have any points in your back office, just the fact that you found these products and you found this opportunity. We have tons of stuff to be grateful for, and just reminding ourselves of that constantly. All right, I'm gonna stop this and then I'm gonna hold up this little book. I don't know if you can see it. So my English teacher in high school gave this to me. So forever ago. So it's super old. And then the other book we talked about was Faith Driven Entrepreneur. And then of course, Brittany Howard's podcast. If you want any of these resources, I'm happy to send them to you. Hopefully it was helpful, and I'm cheering you guys on. Good luck.